So how best can students prepare themselves for this fair?
Students really need to do some research to start off with. They should come with some idea of who they want to speak to, but they should also try and speak to some people they have no knowledge about. So some ideas of countries they might want to visit and talk to, but also some maybe areas within that country that they might be interested in as well. They can do a bit of research on the internet or use prospectuses in the careers libraries, but really the fair should be all about finding out that finer detail once they get here.
What prior research do you think they need to have done?
I really think that they could do with having a rough idea of the questions they want to ask. So if they've done some research on the internet and haven't found an answer to a question about accommodation, for instance, then they should be asking that question once they get here. So identifying gaps in the knowledge they already have would be a good way of starting some research. But also having a foundation of what you want to find out in terms of types of university, locations and that sort of thing would be good as well. You need a focus for what you're going to do once you get here.
What is the advantage, do you think, of having such a wide diversity of institutions all in one place?
I think it's so important that students actually look at the world as a place to study for higher education. Lots of students have some concepts already of where they want to study. They might have a preference for the USA, for instance. But really, the opportunity of this fair would be for them to be able to go and look at other countries that they may never have thought of, trying something different and seeing what that has to offer. So the ideal situation with all these countries in one place allows a student very easily to look at other new things without having to put too much effort in on their part.
One of the universities has just told me that whenever a student comes up to him, he always asks them the question, why do you want to come here?
It's interesting that students should always question what their motivation is for going to a particular university. And if an actual marketing representative or an admissions officer said, why do you want to come to this university, rather than the student actually asking, why should I come to this university, it's an interesting perspective change, because a student should be thinking about what they really want out of the university experience, what are their criteria that they're looking at for that perfect, ideal higher education experience once they get there.
And do you think it's okay to come here with absolutely no idea of your future direction?
I certainly think that this is an opportunity for someone who has no idea to really get a foundation and start thinking about what's important to them. It would be nice that a student came here with some ideas, just so they could structure their information gathering a bit more effectively once they're here, because students only get quite a short period here in order for all the ESF schools to be able to come through. So if they have some ideas, that would be great. But for a student who really has no clue, then this is a perfect opportunity to start gathering some basic information and start narrowing down their choices.
For a student who does not have their pre-chosen institution attending, is there any benefit to them attending?
We really encourage all of our Year 12 students to come to the ESF Fair. In fact, we make it mandatory. And for the reason for that is actually so that students who maybe already know exactly where they're going start to think outside of that box a little bit. We find a lot of our students are very focused. They know exactly where they want to go and what they want to do. And we always encourage them to take a step back and really think, what else could there be? Because there might be the perfect university for them just down the road from that university, or in a different country, or a completely different environment altogether. So absolutely, if a student realises that the university they're already interested in is not here, it's absolutely a perfect opportunity to look at other options as well.
In your experience, do the university reps, do the alumni, do the people who are here on a perhaps PR campaign, do they have any other value to the students as they make their decisions?
It's very important when you're speaking to any representative from the university that you absolutely think about what impression you're making. Some of the people here will be marketing people. They might not have any power as such over the decision that the university is going to make about an application you make to that university. But it's certainly, they are able to feed into the process. So after today, collect some name cards and make sure you keep up contact with people that you're interested in, because you might find yourself talking to the dean of a faculty that you're really passionate about, and they very much will be able to influence the decision if your application is made to that university. If, however, you realise they are just a marketing representative, it's still very important for you to be able to make a good impression, have some knowledgeable questions, and also follow that contact up if you ever have any future questions, or also to keep them warm and remind them that you were interested once upon a time.
The English Schools Foundation is a group of English medium schools which educates over 16,000 students from across Hong Kong. Established by the government in 1967, we now operate 5 secondary schools, 9 primary schools, 2 all-through private independent schools, 4 kindergartens and a school for students with special educational needs. Every year, over 800 students graduate from 5 ESF secondary schools and the 2 private independent schools. Over 95% of these graduates go on to higher education. To help them gain first-hand information from universities worldwide, we organise an annual ESF Higher Education Fair.
The ESF Fair is now in its 8th year. It started at Island School as a very small get-together of universities that were attending the British Council Fair, either the weekend before or the weekend after. In the last 3 years, it really has grown, and it's grown in the same way that the ESF's destinations have grown. We now today have 105 different universities that are from the United States, they're from the United Kingdom, but also we now have a major presence from Canada, from Australia. We've got Korea, we have Japan, we've got European business schools. It truly is an international event.
We found that the close contact that we've had with the ESF schools, Island School in particular, over the years has been beneficial for both sides, and I'm glad to say that the relationship seems to be going from strength to strength.
They should come with some idea of who they want to speak to, but they should also try and speak to some people they have no knowledge about. It's interesting that students should always question what their motivation is for going to a particular university. And if an actual marketing representative or an admissions officer said, why do you want to come to this university, rather than the student actually asking, why should I come to this university?
We always find the students who come here are really, really good quality of students.
Typically we find that they're very well prepared. They've gone through excellent careers programs, they've had lots of talks from institution representatives throughout the year.
They've been great students and they've done very well and gone on to do exciting things after their times at SOAS.
To help me get into contact with universities and specific people, which I would never have been able to do.
I believe it was really useful having alumni and representatives from the different schools, and I think that it really did help.
This is a really good opportunity for us to see a whole range of universities from completely different places. For example, there's ones ranging from Europe to US and UK, so it's really informative and useful.
The ESF Higher Education Fair 2012 will take place on the 23rd of February at Island School.
Which country do you think you're going to be applying to for your university destination?
I'll definitely be applying for the UK because that's where I'm from, and hopefully I'll be trying to get home status. So the UK is definitely the only destination that I could apply for.
And are any of your chosen universities here today?
Yeah, there are loads of universities here today that I've chosen. So many universities here, like Newcastle, Bristol, Edinburgh. There's a lot of the universities that I've chosen to have a look at are here. Most of them even, yeah.
We often ask you to make sure you got a reach and a safety. Have you got a good range here today?
Yeah, well, I've got a range from Newcastle, which is 38 points, to somewhere like East Anglia, which is only 35 points. So there's a huge range. Some of the universities I've looked at are 32 points. So there's a massive range of universities that are here.
Who have you been to see today?
So today I've been to see Newcastle, Aberdeen, Glasgow, Edinburgh. I've also been to see Southampton, Nottingham, so many unis. So.
Did you prepare for today? Have you come with any questions?
Yeah, there are loads of questions I've been asking the universities. A lot about fee statuses, a lot about the points that are required, a lot about the course that I'm interested in, which is medicine, so a lot about what they ask for and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of questions that I have had to prepare for, so it's not kind of awkward between the person and myself.
Have you been to see a university that you didn't know anything about and that has actually surprised you?
Yeah, well today I went to Sheffield in particular, which I've never even thought about looking at. And what I found out about it, that it's got really good student life, It sounds like a lot of people enjoy going there. The campus is really nice, quite low requirements, so it's one of the safety universities that I would definitely consider. So I came from not considering the university to really being interested in it, so it's really helped me.
And do you think you'll follow up with any of the reps through email or another contact?
Well, a lot of the universities have given me their contacts, and I've given them my email and that kind of thing. So we're going to email. They're going to send me to other people who are to do with the admissions for medicine, and so it's been really useful today to help me get into contact with universities and specific people, which I would never have been able to do.
Which country do you think you're going to go to university?
I'm thinking either the US or the UK, but I haven't made my decision yet.
And are any of the institutions here today?
Well, actually, I've decided to go in undecided for the US, but in the UK, I'd probably major in economics. So the universities have been really helpful, the ones that I've looked at so far today.
So which institutions do you have in mind?
Well, I was looking at Essex at the University of Hollowell, and that was the main ones that I was concentrating on today.
What preparation have you done for today's fair?
Well, we went and talked to Miss Salier in the office the other day, and so that was just practicing interview questions for going up to the universities, and she also told us what sort of questions to ask, or she helped us decide what we wanted to ask.
And have you found out anything today that's been of great use?
Well, I've got a lot of contact details from many of the universities, so that's been of great use, and also I picked up quite a few brochures which have a lot of information in them, and they give us the requirements as well.
And do you think you'll actually make use of those email contacts?
Well, I've got a few questions that I want to ask now, so I think I probably will be emailing many of the universities.
And what do you think your next step is now?
I think I need to do more research because I'm still quite uninformed about where I want to go. But once I've done that, then I think I'll decide on what major I want to concentrate on as well.
Which countries are you looking at to go to for university?
I'm deciding between the UK and the US because the US, the education system there appeals more because you've got a year or two where you can take your own classes that interest you, whereas in the UK you've got to decide immediately. So it's a debate between that.
And are there any of the institutions you're looking at here today?
Yes, a couple were. USC were here from the US, and UCL and King's King's were not here, UCL from the UK. So it was nice talking to them.
And had you prepared yourself to talk to them?
I had researched the university, but mainly I was asking them if they offered courses that would interest me, like business courses, and also what their entry requirements were.
Have you visited any colleges that you hadn't heard of previously?
Yep, at the UK, I've heard of Exeter and Leeds, but I haven't heard much about them, so it was great to be able to talk to them, and I was there early, so it was pretty much one-on-one, and it was great to hear about the different courses and everything that they offered, and the fact that they are both campus-based universities, but they're quite close to the city, so you kind of get the best of both worlds.
What's the most useful thing you've come away with today?
Before the fair, I was leaning more towards the US because, as I said, their education system sounds more appealing. But I think the UK universities definitely presented themselves much better today, and so now I'm leaning more towards the UK.
And have you made any contacts with any of the reps that will follow through by email?
Yep, a lot in the UK, and I'm also planning to head over during Easter to look at some of the universities, so we'll be in touch by email to set up university tours and things like that during the holiday.
Which countries are you thinking of applying to?
Well, in fact, I was going to apply to Holland, but as soon as I came today, all the UK universities seem to appeal. I mean, I visited also the US universities, but especially in the UK, they've sent over people who know a lot about the universities and feel really comfortable in their own universities. So all of them have showed me that, I don't know, UK would be such a a good compromise instead of Holland or any other European area.
So who have you talked to today?
Today I went to visit Bristol, Leeds, Newcastle, Nottingham, all 4 of them universities for medicine, and they've all come about as being much better than I expected, and a lot of information about their campuses and leaflets that anyone should take or you should take, etc.
What sort of questions did you have for them?
Well, one of my main questions was, I think it's going to be in lots of people's minds, is the issue about a gap year. And I mean, lots of the universities recommend a gap year or say it's not as good to have a gap year. But the whole thing about a gap year, as they've explained, is to do what benefits you for the upcoming university years. And the main thing they've said is to become more mature. And I mean, it's up to you. And that was the main question that I had to focus on.
Have you got any good contacts from these reps?
Yeah, I mean, I did take their contact, but I mean, the main thing is making sure they know who you are. So I made sure they knew my name, and I wrote down my email, not on the whole list, but on a separate card for them, so they'd feel more comfortable getting to know you and things like that, putting you in a better position, or me.
And what are you going to do now?
Well, now I've looked at the unis, and it's honestly a balance between what I originally picked and what I've seen today. And hopefully I'll come to a conclusion after I visit in the next term break.
Which countries do you think you'll be applying to?
Well, I think I'll be applying to UK for universities, but I am considering US as well.
And what information do you think will help you make up your mind?
Well, I think for the UK, I think I'd be looking for what information I think would help me to make up my mind is perhaps more about the course in the universities and what they offer, and perhaps what the grade requirements are. For example, US requires SATs and IB, whilst UK only requires IB points, so that might help me.
Have you been to see anyone today?
Yes, I've been to see quite a few UK universities. For example, I went to see Royal Holloway, Leeds, Southampton, and quite a lot. And they were all really useful and enthusiastic in their answers, and they elaborated a lot on the questions I had or queries.
What sort of questions did you have for them?
Well, I prepared detailed questions. So, for example, I prepared a lot of questions on the courses. I'm interested in media and journalism, broadcasting, this kind of field. So I asked them a lot of questions. For example, is this course theoretical or practical? More specific questions about the course.
Are there any universities that you've visited today that you've never really heard of before?
I have visited, for example, Sheffield. I haven't really heard of this university before, but after visiting, it's kind of given me a whole new perspective, and I might consider applying there.
And what about the US? What US universities have you talked to?
I'm planning to go see USC because I've heard that it's famous for film and media, and I'm also planning to see perhaps a range, some Ivy League ones such as UPenn and Stanford, but some other universities as well.
And what do you think will help you make your decision between that sort of university?
I think it will end up being the course that they give, rather than the ranking of the university, because I'm really enthusiastic about the media course, and also the structure of the course and what the course entails and how I'll be assessed in it.
And what are your overall impressions of this fair?
I think that this fair is actually really useful because we're given a lot of explanations and elaborations, and also this is a really good opportunity for us to see a whole range of universities from completely different places. For example, there's ones ranging from Europe to US and UK. So it's really informative and useful.
Which countries are you thinking of going to university?
I'm thinking of going to university in either the UK or Australia.
And have you got any institutions already in mind?
For Australia, I was thinking about either Monash, because they have a course that is very unique, which is a double course which includes both my interests, which are very different, both drama and law.
Were any of those universities here today?
Yeah, Monash was. And for the UK one, I'm not so sure which one I want to go to. I was thinking more of going to maybe drama schools and maybe not unis for drama, but there were a few unis which did performing arts here, and I did have a talk with them.
Which universities have you talked to today?
Various ones from the UK, yeah.
Have you prepared any questions for this event?
I have, and the handout that the school gave us had almost all the questions that I needed to ask, basically. Probably one which I asked most was probably the culture at the university, and also maybe the weather, because for me that affects whether I want to go to a place or not, because yeah, that's probably one of the reasons why I chose Australia, and I might choose Australia over the UK. Yeah.
And have you made any good contact with any reps today?
Yes, I have. One of the representative of Monash gave me her card, and yeah, I'll ask additional information because I had some queries about whether they accepted the BTEC course, and yeah, so I'll inquire about that.
What are your overall impressions of the fair?
The university fair was very, very helpful, I thought. I mean, it would be almost impossible for me to get in contact with all of these unis, and this was probably, it was a very good experience.
Which countries are you looking at for university?
Currently looking at Hong Kong or the US, but thanks to the university fair, I've started to consider the United Kingdom.
Which universities have you been to look at today?
Today I've been to Hong Kong University, City U, I've been to Chinese U, I've been to the Baptist University, I've also for the States been to USC, UC Berkeley, and UPenn.
And what sort of questions are you asking?
Well, the most important question for me now is, unfortunately, I need to know the gap year policies for every single school because I have to take military service once I'm 18 for 2.5 years.
And have they been able to find that information for you?
Most universities have given me a direct answer, however some are still unsure. That's why they've given me their contacts to further ask them or to seek further assistance.
Have you talked to any universities that have surprised you with their answers?
Yeah, most universities have rejected the 2-year gap year. However, USC and considering UPenn has decided that the 2-year gap is actually all right, depending on certain conditions.
And what follow-up with the universities will you be doing now?
Sorry?
What follow-up with the university reps will you be doing now?
I'll be continuing to ask them for their requirements, their gap year policies, and depending on the majors that I'm taking, which are either business or medicine.
So has this fair been useful to you?
This fair has been extremely useful, and I feel that I've gained a lot of information out of going to this university fair.
Which countries are you looking at for university?
I would like to go to either Australia or the UK.
And what will help you make up your mind?
Course requirements are quite a big part of the unis and the countries I'm going to be going to, because Australia there's quite a lot more choice and it's easier to get into unis, but yeah, UK is much harder for certain subjects.
And who have you been talking to today?
I've been talking to Leeds, Surrey, and some other UK and also some other UK universities, and also University of New South Wales in Australia.
And what sort of questions have you been asking them?
I've been talking about course-specific requirements such as subjects needed to get in, and like the level of subjects needed to get in, such as higher maths, and also fees and other things like that.
And have the universities been able to answer your questions, especially about fee structures and IB point scores required?
They've been able to answer IB point scores pretty easily, pretty directly, so it's been really helpful. Fees are also a little bit harder because there's things like living costs and other things you have to take into account as well, and there's different costs for different courses, but generally they've been very helpful.
Has this fair introduced you to any institutions you haven't previously heard about?
Yeah, I've seen quite a few different names and had a chat with them, but I've got to say I didn't know a lot about many of the universities beforehand, so I'm generally talking to the universities that have courses that interest me the most.
And what are your overall impressions of the fair?
I thought it's very useful. It's really good having all this information all in one place with, and all the uni reps are, very friendly and very helpful to everyone.
So, do you think Birmingham City will beat Arsenal in the Carling Cup final at Wembley? Which country do you think you're going to go to university?
I think I'm going to go to university in the UK.
Are there any other areas you're looking at?
I've been looking at Hult University, which is a university that has 5 campuses all over the world, in America, in Europe, in the Middle East, and in China. And it's only international business, which is what I want to study. So it's really good that they've come to Island School.
And which campus are you interested in for them?
Well, you can study at 3 campuses throughout your course, and I would be interested in studying at the London University, the Dubai one, and the Shanghai one.
Which institutions have you talked to today?
I've talked to quite a lot so far, but I'm still wanting to talk to more. But some of the ones I've already talked to today are Brunel, Aberystwyth, Swansea, De Montfort, Edinburgh, Napier, and lots more.
And have you made any preparations to meet them?
I did quite a lot, because we got a list of questions that I used, and I narrowed them down to the ones that I thought were specific to me, which were the entry requirements, the sports facilities, the assessment, the teaching methods, and also if they had Mandarin, which is quite important to me.
And have you been talking to any universities that you've never heard of before?
Hult was one that I hadn't heard of before until I found out that they were coming to our university, and when I found out they were coming, I got really interested in it. And also Aston, which I hadn't heard of before, and it is now one of the ones that I really want to go to.
How useful have the reps been in answering your questions?
Very useful, because there were lots of questions that the website doesn't just tell you, so the fact that they're here so we can talk to them is very useful, as it's quite hard for us to go to England to go talk to them for there, because it's a lot of money. So when they're here, it's very useful.
What are your next steps in making sure that you have good choices for the university?
I'm going to compare the ones that I really want to go to next to each other, so I can see which ones have the grades that are specific to me, and also which ones have the criteria that which I think is really important, so then I can narrow it down to the ones that are very good for me.
What criteria are very important to you?
Entry requirements that fit me, Mandarin, which I think is very important for a business, especially because very many businesses are expanding to China, sports, and the student-staff ratio. I want it to be quite low, because then you get more interaction with the teachers.
What was your impression of ESF students?
The students that I've seen so far today have been very motivated, inquisitive I'd say. Basically they're very serious about where they're going when they finish at the ESF schools. I've spoken to some older students and also some younger students, and really basically trying to get the nuts and bolts of where they're going. I do a lot of road shows all over the world basically, and I do find students from the ESF schools, as I said, highly motivated and ready to take on the challenges.
So what questions should they be asking you?
Basically, with such a wide variety of universities or institutions they can speak to on offer here today, what they really should be focusing on is what makes an institution special. What is it about their school or the programs that differentiate them from other schools? Then they can take that information away and basically sit down and make those choices themselves with all the information available.
What follow-up can you provide with our students?
The students are always free to contact me following a visit to an ESF school or following the event. I, like most representatives, frequently visit the ESF schools, so quite often here in Hong Kong. But when I'm not around, the students are always more than able to contact me through email, or online, or even on the telephone, and always most welcome to speak to parents as well.
What are your overall impressions of coming to Island School for this event?
I've been coming to Island School now, I'm going to say, I guess it's about 5, 6, maybe even 7 years. I find the students here, as I said before, of a very high calibre or quality, and very serious about where they're going when they finish their studies here.
What is the relationship that SOAS has with Hong Kong and ESF students?
Well, SOAS has been coming to Hong Kong for a number of years and visiting ESF schools. We've had regular students coming into SOAS, and they've been great students and they've done very well and gone on to do exciting things after their times at SOAS.
What sort of questions should students be asking you when they meet you?
I think it's really important for students to start to do their research early, and that's been really nice about coming here today. There's lots of students really starting to think about the process quite well in advance with their parents. I think they should be asking about the course content at each of the institutions that they're interested in, because an economics degree at one institution and an economics degree at another institution have the same name, but the course content may actually be really quite different. So it's really important that students are finding out which are the courses that are really going to suit them. And I think it's also really important that students come to the fair with an open mind. A lot of students maybe already have a list of universities that they're interested in, but they shouldn't be afraid to go up to all of the universities that are here, because they never know what kind of information they might get from the reps, and that might actually change their ideas about where they want to go. And I guess finally they should ask the universities what they think makes that university different, so that they can start to really distinguish between all the different types of universities and really get an understanding of what they would like to do and where they would like to go.
Does your role with the students end at this point, or do you have a further role with students in their decision making?
No, absolutely. I mean, I work with the students right up until they come, and I keep in touch with them once they're at SOAS. So, you know, I would welcome students to get in touch with me after the fair once they've gone away and thought about what it might be like to come to the University of London, and maybe that raises some questions with them. They should get in touch. We welcome them on campus. A lot of the students might come in their summer holidays, and they should definitely come onto the campuses of the universities, get in touch with me. I can set that up, as can other reps at other universities. And then obviously I keep in touch with the students when they come back to start their working lives in Hong Kong. I see them as alumni, so my process is along. My relationship with the students goes on for many years after they've studied.
What's the relationship between you and Island School been over the years?
It's been a very good relationship, particularly because my institution's programs are very specialist, and we've found that the close contact that we've had with the ESF schools, Island School in particular, over the years has been beneficial for both sides, and I'm glad to say that the relationship seems to be going from strength to strength.
How does our BTEC provision fit in with your intake?
It's ideal for us because if, for example, we look at our specialist degree programs, there are a number of options, a number of pathways available for students that whose grades are, let's say, slightly below average, there's still the opportunity for them to directly or indirectly progress onto one of our degree programmes.
What questions should students be asking you?
Well, so far they're asking all the right questions. They're asking about the questions related to the programme, but also related to entry to the programme, and also, just as importantly, after they graduate, what are the sort of career options that particular degree will offer them, and also maybe some of the typical jobs that our graduates have gone on to after they've finished their studies. So they're definitely on the right lines, they're definitely on the ball.
How does your relationship with our students develop as they get closer towards making their final choices?
Well, the contact that we have is very good, and it's through working with yourself and Simone in particular. They know they're only a phone call away or an email away from finding out, once they're sort of very clear on the programme itself, it's then a question of pre-departure, and it's then a question of, well, how do I get to Hartbury, what actually happens when I get there, and just preparing them for their first arrival and the airport pickup that we offer, also preparing them for enrolment week, induction week. So the contact that we have with them and we maintain with yourselves is very helpful, so that when they actually arrive, it's not too much of a shock to the system to them.
Why do you come all the way to Hong Kong to recruit students?
Well, I'm one of the lucky ones. Because I'm based in China, it's not such a difficult journey for me. But if I wasn't, let's say I was based in the UK, this particular event is something I would still target, particularly because of the scale of the event. It's the right sort of size that you get to spend quality time, if you like, with not just the students but the parents, that you don't tend to get at the bigger events when it's really too much of a rush and there's sort of too big a queue for you to really sort of get, for them to actually ask all the questions that they want to without feeling pressure to move aside because someone else is in the queue and has similar questions to them and similar issues to them that they would like to address as well. But I think this is about the fourth year I've attended this event now, and again, it's ideal for us for that personal level of contact that you get with the students and on the counselling side as well.
Thank you. Why have you attended this fair today?
We've come because we know that the ESF education in Hong Kong is a very good quality one. The students that we can meet are focused on what they want to do with their careers, so we're looking at selecting the best of the students to come to our universities.
And what impression have the students given you about themselves today?
Very positive. I like the preparation they've done. They've worked out where they want to go, which universities and careers they're thinking about. So they've also been well spoken, been able to communicate with them freely. Doesn't matter which nationality they are, they haven't been afraid to speak.
What sort of questions should students be asking of you?
I'd like to focus very much on what their career path is going to be, because education comes and goes quite quickly in a small number of years, even university education. But a student's career path is what we want to know about. So their questions should be how the university education will help them to provide for themselves over their lifetime.
And after this event, can students carry on following up if they've got certain queries?
Definitely. I'm in the fortunate position where I'm based in Hong Kong. We have an office here. So whether it's hospitality or design they're interested in, they're more than welcome to come and visit us at the office, or we come through to the schools 2 or 3 times a year to speak to students and the counsellors.
Excellent, thank you. Why have you been coming to this fair?
The University of York has been coming to this fair for a couple of years now. We find the quality of the students at this fair is really excellent. It's quite rare to find a fair that has such a high volume of really focused students with very good qualifications, students with a very good level of English, most of them have got a fairly good idea what they want to study, where they want to study. I think they're helped a lot by the careers counsellors at their schools. So we really appreciate the good quality of students that we meet at these fairs.
What sort of preparation and what sort of questions should they be asking?
It's very important for the students to have had a good think really about what subject they want to study. I realise at the age of sort of 16, 17, it can still be quite difficult to know exactly what career you want to do, but I think it's important to at least know the areas that you're interested in, and remember that when you're applying for an undergraduate programme, the most important thing is to choose a subject you find interesting, because what you choose will dictate probably what you do for the rest of your life. It's not really necessary to specialise when you're doing your undergraduate programme. You have opportunities to specialise later in life. So, for example, after your undergraduate degree, you could consider doing a master's, either at the university where you did your undergraduate degree or at another university. You could go into work and then do a professional qualification and specialise at that stage. But I think it's quite good to keep your options open at undergraduate level. So think about what you're interested in. Also think about the type of university you might want to go to. The University of York, for example, is a relatively small university. We've got 13,000 students. It's in a relatively small city. Some students prefer a campus university like the University of York. Others might prefer a city university like a lot of the universities in London or in Manchester. So think about the size of university, the size of the city you want to be located in. Think also about whether or not you want a campus or a city university.
Who should a student contact if they are genuinely undecided between two universities?
That's a very good question. I think making that final decision, that final choice between two universities can be very tough. A lot of the time when you're making that decision, the reason it can be so difficult is that either university would actually suit your needs very well. So I don't think there's a need to really sweat too much over those decisions. Trust your instincts. Go for the university with a good ranking, with a good reputation, but also one that you feel is in a city you're going to enjoy, offers the kind of student environment that you're likely to enjoy and to thrive in, really.
Thank you. Okay. Why do you keep coming back to this fair?
The University of Nottingham's been coming to this fair for years and years and years, and it's a good question because we're actually also here to attend a very big exhibition at the weekend. So why do we make the effort to come to the school as well? Well, we find it's a really good opportunity to meet the students individually from all the different schools in the ESF family in one go, and often the students have done a lot of preparation to help them with asking the right questions, and so we find it's a very focused event as well, and it's a good opportunity to answer those questions to them.
How do our students compare with other students you meet around the world?
Typically we find that they're very well prepared. They've gone through excellent careers programs. They've had lots of talks from institution representatives throughout the year, because the schools are very accommodating at letting us come in and talk to the students. We find that they are usually academically very able and enthusiastic to join the programs at UK and other universities as well.
What sort of questions should the students prepare for you?
I would encourage the students to think very carefully about what subject areas they really are interested in, and what do they really want to know about those subject areas, and ask questions that maybe they can't find the answers to on the website. But make sure that they really want to know the answer, because often if the representative that they're speaking to doesn't know the answer, they'll go away and they'll do quite a lot of hard work to find out the answers to those questions. So they must make sure that they're focused, targeted, and that they ask the right things. You might want to ask about entry requirements, but often that information is available on the website. But maybe ask if there are any differences to the information that's on the website. Is there anything that they need to be aware of when they're choosing their subjects for IB, or when they make their application, and what they should do to make themselves stand out in the application process?
How would you advise a student when it comes down to a choice between two universities?
I would advise them to research both universities in detail and to think very carefully about what they're looking for from their university experience. The course is obviously a differentiator. That's something that they're going to be studying for 3 whole years, and they need to be enthusiastic about the subject and know that it's the right thing for them. But not only are they going to be doing the course for those 3 years, they're also going to be spending at least 3 years in the university environment and in the place where they're going to be studying. So they need to make sure they choose somewhere that they're going to be comfortable. Have they got any hobbies and interests that they want to pursue while they're at the university? They need to make sure that they can actually do those at their respective universities. And I would say that such a big part of the university experience is the environment and the life that they will have there. So they should look into all those aspects very, very carefully in addition to what they'll study in the subject.
Who should a student contact if they have any direct questions after this event?
Many of the university's representatives that are here will probably encourage students to contact them directly. That's certainly what I would do for questions related to my institution. But it's important just to ask who is the most appropriate person to direct questions to. Sometimes it's an international officer like myself, sometimes it's the admissions office. It's best just to ask to be sure exactly who to approach.
Tell me who you're representing today.
I represent the University of Southern California. I am the chairperson of the Parents Association. I live here in Hong Kong and I've been here about 40 years.
And what's your association with Island School and the ESF?
Both of my children graduated from Island School and they both went to the University of Southern California. One graduating in stage management, the other in international relations.
And what impression have you had so far this afternoon about our students and how they carry themselves?
They're curious. They don't have generally ideas of what they actually want to do, but they have macro ideas. When you get them talking to them and ask them to define it, you can see they're still at the age where everything is possible and they're looking for information to fill in the blanks.
So how best can our students use you on an afternoon like this?
They can come to us with an open mind, where everything is possible for them, where they can look at the number of majors we offer, which is 150 and 150 minors, and say, maybe I can find what I want there.
So after an event like this, how can students follow up and find out even more? Because our students are quite shy on an afternoon like today.
They should go to our website. They should look at all the things that are in our brochures. We hold a program called Discover USC in October. It's in town here. They should come to that and they should bring their parents. And they should start an interactive dialogue with their parents and their fellow students to help them define what they want to be and where they'll fit best.
What question do you ask of our students?
What do you want to do in life?
And do they answer that easily?
Most of them, yes. Even though they can say, I'm undecided. That's a great answer.
Have you been to this event before?
For at least 8 times.
And how do you see its development?
It's bigger this time. We've got all the schools in one place, which saves me driving all over town. I like this format.
The ESF Fair is now in its 8th year. It started out at Island School as a very small get-together of universities that were attending the British Council Fair, either the weekend before or the weekend after. In the last 3 years, it really has grown. And it's grown in the same way that the ESF's destinations have grown. We now today have 105 different universities that are from the United States, they're from the United Kingdom, but also we now have a major presence from Canada, from Australia. We've got Korea, we have Japan, we've got European business schools. It truly is an international event. Our students are now applying globally and they need to think globally. One of the most pleasurable aspects of this event for me is that we have a great diversity of institutions. We have institutions that represent the elite from Canada, the elite from all these countries, but we also have universities that are more vocational in their outlook, universities that are keen to understand more about the BTEC offering that we have here in the English Schools Foundation. It gives a wonderful chance for our students to meet one-to-one and ask those questions that generally they're too